So I had a friend say to me that her mom taught her that everyone has a full plate, but that everyone's plate is a different size. Some people might have a dessert size plate, some people might have a dinner plate, some people might have a platter. And one of the things that bugs me incessantly about boundaries is when people feel like they're hearing from teachers or experts about exactly what that has to look like. It's gonna look exactly this way. And yes, there are guidelines that we need to follow, but I think there's sort of some heart questions that we can ask ourselves to know how we're living in our limits. And I say that as a woman who's really busy and who really doesn't like people telling me how I should or shouldn't live. I mean, I'm a self-professed stubborn woman when it comes to that. But I found that there's some questions that I can ask myself that allow me to live the life that God's really called me to. We want to say yes, we want to make a difference. I think those things are really important. I would never want to get kind of rulesy or legalistic about exactly what, for instance, your weekend needs to look like, or exactly what it looks like when it comes to the time that you go to a worship service or how you serve. I think that's kind of beside the point, and Jesus wasn't really about those kind of rules. In fact, he really rebukes the spiritual leaders of the day for all the rules that they put around the Sabbath. He calls himself the Lord of the Sabbath, but Jesus makes it very clear that Sabbath is a responsibility of ours and it was made for us. So Sabbath is this kind of concept that I rest from my work and I do acknowledge that I have an authority over me that is sovereign and is at work. So here's some of the questions I ask myself when it comes to knowing, am I outside my limits? The first one is are my closest relationships thriving? Do the people that I have a responsibility to, because I'm in a commitment to them, such as my husband, my children, my extended family, do they feel cared for? Do they feel like my life looks like I'm caring? How do they feel about our relationship? That's one of them. Another one is, do I find joy in my day? Is there a place in my day for wonder or whimsy? You can be very, very busy and very much within your limits. And if so, you'll be living with a settledness and a joy. That third one is, do I have a deep sense of stillness at the center of my soul? Jesus Christ says that our heart is his dwelling place. So when he calls himself Lord of the Sabbath, that means within our heart, there can be a dwelling place of Sabbath rest, a place that feels still and calm and peaceful. And we may have many, many things worrying all around us, or we may not be busy at all. So we can be sort of look still on the outside and have a very frantic center, or we can look very full on the outside and have a very still center, and that is not a question that someone else can answer for us. That's a question that we honestly have to bring to the Lord and ask ourselves with real honesty if it's true. Am I living out of a deep, still center? So that's another one of those things. And then, am I saying no? Sometimes if you're saying no, if there's nothing you're saying no to, it's very difficult to be living within your limits. So practicing saying no, like being okay with saying no, turning down a social event, turning down a responsibility. It's okay to say no. If we're not saying no to anything, that's probably not a good sign that we're living within our limits. If we're living a full life, there's gonna be times where we say no.